Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. In this episode, I'm talking with author Cleve Sylcox for a soon-to-be-released collection of short stories, The Weight of Nothing. We're going to talk about what inspired this collection of stories, the different topics he writes about, and how it all comes together. Now, Cleve has been writing for the past 20 years and has 42 books to date, and he talks about the different genres he writes in, the characters he's created, and what keeps him motivated as a writer. From there, it's on to the business of writing. We talk about artificial intelligence and its role in the future of the writing industry, and Cleve shares some harsh but needed truths for those who want to get into writing. Citywide Blackout starts right now.
Welcome to Citywide Blackout, the place where writers, musicians, and creators from cities all over the world come to hang out, dive into their works, peel back the curtain on their creative process, and provide knowledgeable, actionable insight that you can apply to your own creative masterpieces. With decades of journalism, media, and entertainment industry experience, your hosts Max Bowen and Curtis Hughes provide fun, informative, and sometimes outrageously bizarre interviews that will keep you enlightened and entertained with a few F-bombs thrown in for emphasis. So put up your feet, grab a beverage, and let's go.
I want to say first off, thank you so much for joining me. Reading your background, I can tell we're going to have a lot to talk about. Before we go into everything, though, big thanks to the one and only Jeff Royds for putting this whole thing together. Jeff is actually a former co-host of this program, a musician, current voice actor. I think he's up to 14 audiobooks right now. So certainly a man of many, many talents. And once again, Jeff, thank you so much. Cleve, man, let us dive right into this thing.
Well, thank you for letting me be on this show. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Jeff is a fantastic guy. Appreciate him.
Recently, I saw that you have a new book coming out. This one is called Weight of Nothing, but this is actually not a novel. It's a collection of short stories compiled into one book. So I want to ask first off, just what are the different stories about, and what do you think ties them together that you're releasing them all together?
Well, The Weight of Nothing is really a book about nothing. It's a book about absence is what it is. It's like, okay, it's like you're missing somebody. Even though they're not there, you might see them wherever you go. Like they're not a ghost, but you're used to seeing them in your favorite chair. You're used to seeing them. They're watching their favorite movie at a particular time of night or whatever. Well, they're not in your life anymore, but they're gone. It's the weight of nothing, the weight of absence. It's really a sci-fi novel. I started off thinking about ghosts. I started thinking about a lot of different things. Like absence of your heart, absence of your mind, things of that nature. And I don't want to sound like a weirdo or anything, because I usually don't write books like this. I normally write, mystery books, but this really grabbed me, and I started to write. And the next thing I know, I'm writing this story about a woman by the lake. And the lake isn't acting the way that it should. The wind would blow, but it wouldn't move. The water wouldn't move. And there was something going on beneath the surface. And so she sends one of her best friends down to investigate, because he's a diver. Well, he doesn't come back up. Then the sheriff comes to investigate this missing person that she reported. And they send down two divers, and they don't come back up. So to make a long story short, people start disappearing, and their absence is felt by everybody. And so she ends up disappearing too, this reporter.
Ooh.
So that's the end of the first book. Then you go on to the second book, and it's about CERN, Switzerland, and about the collider that's there and how there's sending particles around in circles. And well, they opened a doorway and something came through, and it's part of the weight of nothing. And then the third story is about a bench, believe it or not, in some metropolitan city. I don't think in the whole story, I don't think I even named the name of the city. I called it a bench outside of Ashbury Station. And the bench just has this aura about it that nobody wants to sit on the bench. Nobody wants to go near the bench. Nobody wants to even partake in it, but they stop and they look at it, and then they walk away. It's just a very spooky bench. I'm trying to not divulge or give away what's going on, but it is a sci-fi, and it involves aliens, and it involves the taking over the Earth in this weird manner, other than coming down and shooting us all with lasers.
I love it. I love the notion of the lake that everyone just like vanishes into. Of course, the super collider.
Yes.
So these are some really cool stories. Which one came first for you?
The lake.
The lake, yeah. Oh,
The
good.
lake did.
That's a great start. Looking at your background, I counted you've done something like 40-ish books to date, which is quite a lot of titles to do over the course of any career. What got you writing in the first place?
I always felt like I had this urge to write. I mean, growing up, I wanted to write a book, but I wasn't a very good writer. But I would write short stories, and people liked them. People liked the little short stories I wrote. And deep down inside of me, I wanted to write a book. I wanted to write something. And I got a job working for this cable company here in town. And it was a very boring, dull job because we basically troubleshot our system. So basically, I sat there a lot of times doing nothing. And I had this computer in front of me and I had the word program. And they said, this might be a good time to start that novel. And so I started writing, and I wrote Nucor. And Nucor turned out to be a book about a sci-fi about a superhuman who ended up taking over Earth, and a bunch of other superhumans who fought against him throughout this whole thing. And I had the people there where I worked, they saw what I was doing. They said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm writing a book." They go, "What? No way." I said, "Oh, yeah. And I'm just goofing around," is what I told them. I said, "I'm just killing time." And that's all I was really doing. But next thing I know, I had over 500 pages written. These guys were reading it, and they were loving it. And you got to remember, I was in a room full of geeks. So they were really getting into this sci-fi thing,
It's your audience, right?
Exactly. So, they seemed to enjoy it quite a bit. I published that one, and that was how I really got back into writing. And that was 2005.
How do you keep so motivated that you keep churning them out so quickly?
I don't know about motivation. It's just something I do. I mean, when you first start sitting down, they talk about brain farts. They talk about, brain freeze, writer's block, all that good stuff. And I've experienced that, but just for a short, minimal amount of time. I have a pretty wild imagination, and I can turn just about anything into a story. To keep going, there are times where I'll finish a novel. I'll finish it like Max Archer. I finished that one. Max Archer is not a sci-fi, even though it has some sci-fi in it. Once I got finished with that book, I really didn't have anything else in store. I have a list of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books right here that I've started over the past 15 years that I've only got 2 or 3 chapters written in. I just grabbed one of those and started writing. But then while I was writing, and the book I was started on was called Gator Holler, and it took place in 1963 in a small rural Georgia town. And it was about the death of a young girl that they blamed on a black man. And back in the rural South, they always blamed the black man. They strung him up. They killed him. And it was about the sheriff who came to town to investigate the death of the black man that led to the investigation of the death of the little girl that is now revealing the secrets of this small town. And that's what the whole book is about, is that. Now, while I was writing that, that's when I started thinking about The Weight of Nothing. And I had to stop Gator Holler again for like the 50th time and go and start writing The Weight of Nothing. Because what happens is that these books, these ideas grab you, they pull you in. And once they get a hold of you, it's like, I can't stop writing this thing. I have to finish it. And you get so involved and so detailed with the characters that the characters actually, to you, to the writer, become alive. They're living, breathing people. And you have to put you have to give them life. So you have to reveal that to the reader. And as you're typing it out, it's like they're writing the story now. Once you develop the character and the character's there, the character won't change. And so everything it does or he does just more or less comes out. It's hard to explain, but the characters actually write the story, because if you keep them in character, they'll do what they're designed to do.
Does it ever
make sense?
No, it really does, Cleve. It really does. And I hear this a lot from people. They'll say, like, the character obviously is driving the story. And in some cases, I've heard people say that, well, this is not what I had planned, but it's where the character kind of wanted to go. So I just kind of went along for the ride.
Yeah, exactly.
How would you say you've sort of grown as a writer since you published your first book, Load, those many years ago?
I matured, I think. Back then, I was more into sensationalism. I wanted everything to be big. Everything had to be a blowout. You had to have action from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. No nonstop movement. Now I'm getting more deeper into the characters, trying to reveal their side of things. Why they see the things that they do, and why do they do the things that they do. And that goes for the good and the bad. It goes for my protagonist and my antagonist both. I want them both to be deeply involved in the character. And the reason I started, or what I saw doing this, was not only because I read a lot of Dean Koontz and Mr. Graham. I read a lot of his books too. Stranger Things, believe it or not. I started watching the Stranger Things stories, and these stories, I mean, they went off in the deep end on these characters. You went down deep inside of these guys. You actually became emotionally involved with each character. And I said, man, I wish I could write like that. And so I started doing that.
That's so cool. Are you entirely self-taught as a writer?
Yeah, mostly.
Wow.
There's a group here in St. Charles I was involved with for a little while. And there's also another group online that I was involved with. And the group online was made up of, it was a private group. The only way you got in, it was by invitation. And these were number one writers. And I'm not going to say who they were, but they were some really, really popular writers. And they gave you hints. They helped you out with your writing. They more or less took me under their wing and taught me a lot of things. So I give them a lot of credit for helping me mature and to be the writer that I am now. Also, this group here in St. Charles, a friend of mine and I had a podcast. Well, it wasn't really a podcast. It was more or less like a show for YouTube called the Cleve and Steve Show.
That's a great name.
It was basically, we went out to these events, these writing events around the St. Louis area, and interviewed authors. These were all self-published authors and stuff like that. So we would interview them. They would give a little spiel on their book, and then through our channel, they would promote their book. And we thought it went over well. Plus, we did some side stuff on the side. We talked, and we tried to make it entertaining as much as possible. But it was a lot of work, and I worked full-time. Plus, I was writing, and I wasn't getting much writing done doing this show because I was doing a lot of editing for the show. After about the 13th or 14th episode, I forget how many we did, we folded. We said that was enough. But I learned a lot from that by talking to the other authors. I mean, it's hard to explain. Everybody has their own style, their own way of learning. I learned by self-doing, by doing and looking at my mistakes and trying not to make those mistakes again, But you have other people who get online, and they have, what's that called, that master class? They have a master class for writing, and that worked out. I did a couple of those classes, and they worked out pretty good. Except you're talking about pros who's not going to give away their secrets on those shows. They're going to tell you the basic stuff, and that's it.
Yep. Hey, the Dean Koontzes out there, they got to protect their legacy. We've talked a bit about characters, and of course, as we mentioned before, they drive the story. How do you know when you have a character ready to go?
It's a good question. Because some characters just don't work out.
Yeah.
I wrote a book called Daewoo. And Daewoo was about this guy who had a demon living inside of him, and he was going around killing people. And it was one of my earlier books. It was one of those action-packed books, you know. and anyway, there was a couple of characters in there that I worked on for the chief of police, and none of them were working out because I would start writing about him, and it just, I don't know, his attitude or something about him just didn't click, didn't blend in well with the story or whatever. There was this guy I worked with named O'Donnell, and he had this sharp attitude. I mean, he was a nice guy, but he was had a sharp attitude about him. If you asked him questions the wrong way, you know, he would growl at you more or less. So anyway, I used him as the character for this chief of police, and it worked out just fine. Everything has to mesh. I mean, you can't just throw in somebody playing a banjo in the middle of the downtown New York City when he's really more fit to be in the mountains.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And if he is playing a banjo in the middle of New York City, he's probably got a bucket in front of him as a panhandler.
How about when it comes to killing off your characters? Given the work that goes into them, do you have a hard time with saying, okay, time to...
No.
No? I like that. Good.
No.
All right.
No.
Kill them all.
Yeah. There's in Daewoo, to go back to that, that same group of people that helped me, that, you know, we worked on Newcore together, these geeks, they all wanted to be in a book, every one of them. And I said, well, you know, I'm going to have to kill you all off. And they said, okay. They were okay with that. And so in Daewoo, they all ended up dying. But we spent a lot of time working on their characters, working on, you know, developing them and throughout the book. And so by the time the book was over, there's only one person left, and that was the antagonist.
Well, then. All right, then. I like this. So, Cleve, you've worked in a lot of different genres. Like, looking over your books, I've seen collections of poetry. I have seen, of course, your mystery series, sci-fi. It goes on. How do you move from one to the other? And why do you do that? Why do you play this field so well?
Well, I think it's a lot like life. You're not always in the same mood all the time. Sometimes you're in the mood for peanut butter and jelly, and the next thing you know, you want a steak. You know, you want something you can sink your teeth into. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's sometimes I get very philosophical. I get very emotional about, you know, everyday life things that are going on around me, and I just have to get them out. And so I sit down and write some poems. And there's other times where I'll be thinking about Philip Marlowe, or I'll be thinking about, you know, James Cagney or Humphrey Bogart. I'll be thinking about those kind of movies, and that's one of my favorite things to do. There's two things I do every weekend. Saturday night I watch Van Gulli from Chicago, because he has all those old sci-fi mystery horror movies that he plays. Then on Sunday night on Channel 24.4 here in St. Louis, they have Sunday Night Noir, and they play the Humphrey Bogarts. So every weekend I watch those. I'm a big fan of those. So my taste in genre is just really in what mood I'm in what I want to eat for dinner that night.
There you go. Yeah, like you said, sometimes it's a peanut butter and jelly. Sometimes it's steak.
That's right.
That's so cool. All right. Well, Cleve, we've talked a lot about your books, but now we're going to pivot a bit to talk about the business of writing, because this is a business. Is there a truth about the writing world that you feel people need to know, those who want to get into writing?
You're not going to get rich overnight.
There we go.
That is the big thing. People are so crazy with this notion that all writers are making big bucks. They are. I mean, somebody. What would you think? What do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a writer. What do you write for, a newspaper or something? No, I'm a freelance writer. I write, novels. Oh, so you must be really making some bucks. He goes, well, no.
Yeah, sure.
No.
I'm making a few bucks, right?
I'm making a few bucks. I'm making enough to keep my head above water, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And that's how things are. You know, there's very few big sellers out there. You have the big names. And I'm reading a book now by Dean Koontz. It's his autobiography, and basically he started out as a young kid writing. So he's been writing all of his life, but his first few years as a writer, he didn't do diddly squat. And Stephen King, if you read anything about him, his first few years he didn't do diddly squat. He was writing little short stories for these 5 and Dime magazines, and then along came Carrie,
and there we go.
Everything changed for him.
Yep.
Yeah. So he wrote a lot before that happened. So people think, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a novel. I'm going to write a book and I become rich and famous. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen because number one, you have to get your name out there, and number two, publishing houses, they're wanting pristine books.
Yep, I hear that. The one thing I've kind of seen is I'm seeing a lot of like small presses. I'm seeing more folks publish their own books. Do you think like the industry has changed in some way where there's more opportunities than there were before?
Oh yeah. Definitely. I mean, before you had publishing houses, you wrote a book, made a manuscript, you had to have an introductory letter from somebody. You had to submit this manuscript to the publishing houses, and they might get back with you and they might not. That's how it was. But nowadays you have self-publishing. So if you write a book, you publish it yourself. But then you're responsible also for all the promotions. You're responsible for everything that is involved with that book. You learn about copyright, and just recently I learned about. It was a hard pill to swallow, but I learned about some copyright issues that I had with one of my covers, and Jeff Royds could tell you some more about that one of these days. But it's a big learning curve, and so when people say, we're going to get rich today, that's the biggest myth of them all.
I have to agree with you because I hear this a lot, that making this into a full-time job, it's a lot of work. So how do you do that? Is it just plugging away, keep writing books? Are there alternative paths people can take to like make writing into a job?
From what I've learned, in order to be successful, you have to write, and you can't stop writing. You should be writing all the time. You should be reading everything that you get your hands on, no matter what it is. Just keep reading and writing. You need to write as much as you read and not give up. You keep plugging away. If you have an idea, write about it, publish it. If you're going to be a self-publisher, publish it, promote it as much as you possibly can afford, and then go on to your next book. And just keep publishing, keep writing. A friend of mine, and one of my favorite authors, Nick Russell, and I'm going to do a little name dropping here, but he's a good friend of mine, and he's a New York Times bestseller. He wrote his first book, Big Lake. From what I understand, I might have the story wrong, but from what I remember him saying is that he wrote this manuscript and his first wife didn't like it. And so that kind of threw him back a bit. And so he put it in a drawer and he never got it out. Then when he got married the second time, his current wife found the manuscript, or he was getting ready to throw it out, something like that, and read it and said, "Hey, you need to publish this." And he published it, and it didn't go viral for a while, but when it did catch on, it became a New York Times bestseller. And that's how he got his claim to fame. That's how he started climbing the ladder. So getting back to that same genre that we had before, you don't ever give up on something. You just keep plugging away at it. In order to turn that into a full-time job, you have to be successful, number one. You have to develop an audience. So you have to, once you have a web page built, and let's say you get a following, you start sending out these, you start talking to your audience by emails, by any means possible. and you start trying to build and recruit more people into that web page. You see, so you this number one, you have to build an interest. You have to write in a genre that your group reads. In other words, sci-fi, mystery, or whatever. And then you stick with that genre. You don't be like me to where you're going all over the place, but you stick with that genre. And those are the three main things I think that you have to have is you have to be cantankerous, not give up. You need to develop a genre or even a series of books that people are really into. So like in my case, it was the David Winter Mystery Series. People really like that quite a bit. Then you have to develop that audience. You have to recruit people into your world, basically.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask about developing the audience, because obviously that can be difficult, especially in this day and age. But what works best for you, Cleve? Are you the online guy? Are you the in-person guy? Are you like a mix of the two?
I haven't figured that part out yet. I really haven't. If I had figured it out, my income would be a lot better than it is today. But I can tell you what other people have done that have taught me some things, and that is, like I said before, about developing an email. You get a newsletter, and every month you have a newsletter that you put out that says, what your current work is, what they call it a WIP, work in progress, what you're going to be working on in the future, and about your past books. Just a newsletter about those three things, a little short one-page thing, and you send that out to your audience, your email list, at least once or twice a month. And then you keep writing. And then on your Facebook page, your social media outlets that you have, TikTok or whatever, Instagram, you can throw out little tidbits every once in a while saying, this is what I'm working on. Hey, how do you like this cover? Or, how about this for a short story? You give them a little snippet. And so you get people involved in what you're writing. You want that way you get feedback. So a lot of people that I talk to, a lot of authors have gone that route. I'm still working on it. I haven't mastered it yet. That's the route that people take, and it seems to work out for them.
All right. Well, Cleve, I want to pick your brain now about audiobooks, because you have a number of audiobooks for many of your different works. And once again, shout out goes out to the one and only Jeff Royds, VA with, I think he's been doing this for, the thing is, he's been doing this for, I think, only a few years. And he's got like 14, I think, audiobooks out so far. So clearly
that man has got voices that that my brother lives over the hill from me, and he listens to a lot of my audiobooks. And so I gave him Max Archer, and I said, he doesn't get online or anything, so I copied everything to a CD, and I said, here, Calvin, listen to this, tell me what you think. This is before we actually did anything. We hadn't published it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back to me and he goes, my goodness, where did you find this guy?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you find this Jeff Royds character? I said, through auditions. He won the tail of the tape.
Yeah.
So my hat goes off to him. I tell you what, that guy is phenomenal. That's all I can say for him.
Exactly. But when it comes to finding a good VA, what's your process? Like, what do you find is your way of doing it? But also, how do you know when you have the right person for the job?
The voice. And I'm not talking about the voice of the narrator.
Mm-hmm.
It's all in the presentation. It's all in timing. Okay, when I'm writing a book, I got this voice in my head. Like for David Winter, he always sounded to me like this. He always sounded like that. This is the voice I hear in my head all the time. It's David Winter. I don't know. But that's, everything I did was with that voice in my head. When I'm looking for someone to narrate a David Winter book, I'm looking for something close to that voice. it's not going to match. It's not going to be exact, but I'm looking for somebody to get there. And Jeff Roy's was the only one so far that came close enough for me to say, that's David Winter. When I was getting my auditions for Max Archer, I really didn't have a voice in my head at that time. It was sort of a goofy book anyway. I wrote it. Basically, the guy I work with is a semi-pro wrestler, and his stage name is Max Archer. So I asked him if I could steal the name, and he said, yeah. I said, because that's a perfect detective name. So I got it, and I wrote this book. When I was looking for a voice, I was looking for somebody who sounded like they're from the Northeast, who actually was native to that area, somebody who had timing, who could have inflection. And inflection is very important. Without inflection, you don't have a good audio voice at all. And somebody who had a sense of humor. And so I had all these people, and I forget the number of people who tried out for Max Archer, 10, 12, something like that. And then I narrowed that field down to 5. I whittled it down to 5. And then I narrowed it down to 3. Then out of those 3, I asked them to give me samples of, let's say, a woman's voice or some mechanical voice or whatever. And then they would present that to me. And that's when I made my final decision. I chose Jeff. And I couldn't be more happier. I mean, I've had him not only do Max Archer, but he's done some David Winter books for me. He's done several books for me over the past time. So he is my go-to audio guy now.
Nice. I like that.
And that's what can happen,
Has he ever surprised you with his voices? Has you ever heard a voice by him or by someone else and thought, it's not what I expected, but it works?
No, not actually. I mean, we have this, in Max Archer, we have this character who's really a car.
Loving it.
Okay. And so my idea of this car voice was this really sassy woman, just a really sassy ass woman, But he came back with a mechanical voice that was just as sassy. And so I said, let's do it.
That works.
It worked for me.
I love it. All right. Well, Cleve, we've talked a lot about the writing industry, but I'm curious as to where you think this is going. What do you think is coming around the corner that the writers of the world should be kind of keeping their eyes on?
AI.
Quick answer, but very good. Yes, very much so.
AI is scary. Mm-hmm. Right now, there's a program out there called Chapter, and it's all AI driven, and it's all for writers to have, quote unquote, ghost writing, to where you just give it a character or you give it an idea and it takes off and writes it. And it writes it in such and I haven't done it, but it writes it in such a format that you swear, somebody sat down and spent months writing this thing, when all they did was just tell a program to do it within seconds. It's got 250 pages right there in front of you.
Yeah.
So AI is where the industry is going, and AI is very, very scary. I think there ought to be some kind of safeguards involved with this. I know Amazon right now say they don't want anything AI driven on their platform. So if you're publishing a book, you have to tell them this is not AI, and then you have to prove it.
Good.
Prove it some way, somehow. But you can AI can make your covers for Amazon. They just can't write your book.
And the thing is, I'm okay with some use of it because I'll just disclose this. We have our Saturday show, Citywide Bites, and we do use a Gemini AI to make our cover art, our like logo image for it.
Right.
Because I have the artistic skills of a 4-year-old.
Same here.
Exactly. So, I know what I can do. I know what I cannot do. So I'm okay with some uses of it, but yeah, it should not be writing the fucking book.
That's right. That's right. It should not be touching your book. That should come from a person and not a machine.
Exactly. So this is a big question, but what do you think we can do? Not fight against it, but just preserve the human voice.
That I don't know.
Me neither.
I don't know. I mean, it's like AI. It just came on the scene how many months ago? Not even a year ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's already taken over just about everything you do. I mean, even now when you go to the bank, the bank can tell you, oh, some of this may be handled by AI intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
You go, really? I mean, what happened to the guy behind the counter there?
Oh, he's gone. AI took his job.
Yeah, exactly. And so that kind of worries me. It worries me a lot. I just don't know what you could do. I mean, legally, maybe there needs to be some statute, maybe some kind of legal thing that you have to fill out stating that the book you write is all you and not AI.
Yeah. One thing that occurs to me is to make sure that we're supporting the human authors. Make sure we're reading their books, we're buying their books, we're following their socials, we're leaving reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Do everything we can to find those human authors and make sure we like patronize their work so they know that hey, we're reading it, we're buying it, and we're enjoying it.
Yes, I agree 100%.
Best I can think of at the moment. Best I can think of.
Yeah. But the thing about it is, how does the reader know?
Well, Cleve, I think this is a conversation for another day. I want to say thank you so much for joining me because this has been a really fun conversation. And for the folks at home, you go to clevesbooks.org, CLEVES books.org. Everything is there. There's so many books to choose from, people. You are going to find something you like no matter what you're into. And again, once more time, for the road, thank you to the one and only Jeff Royds for bringing this whole thing together. And Cleve, certainly I am looking forward to the next time you and I sit down to talk all things books.
Well, I thank you so much for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to this episode. And please subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. It ensures you never miss an episode and helps our ranking, allowing others to discover the podcast more easily.
If you really liked it, please share it with a friend and join our Citywide Blackout Facebook community, along with following us on Instagram at CitywideMax and at Citywide Interviews.
I'm your host, Max Bowen.
And I'm Curtis Hughes.
And we'll see you all next time.